Let me take you through this family and introduce you who they are. When Melissa Harris Perry got into hot water, she was saying on television that your kids belong to the community and not to parents. That's an MSNBC promo. She and the left try to play this off as no big deal. She said, oh, I don't want to take your kids. But then she followed it up with what this fight is really all about. Listen to this.
This is about whether we as a society, expressing our collective will through our public institutions, including our government, have a right to impinge on individual freedoms in order to advance a common good. And that is exactly the fight that we have been having for a couple hundred years.
America, listen up carefully. What if society decides it's best for the collective, for your child, to go through the government school system and nothing else? Just what the government says, you know, for the common good. Your children are at school for 6 and even 8 hours a day. There are those in this administration that want them to be in school for 10 to 12 hours a day. And they're currently there from the age of 6 until 18. That's a pretty huge decision, choosing where and who schools your children. And currently it's being made by you with your local school board. Kind of. If mom and dad can't make that decision, who is more the parent of the child in this case, the collective or the parent? They are with others, and those others are making decisions in their life that greatly impact their life. You get them at dinner. You have them at breakfast. You have them on weekends. You are a weekend dad. Tonight I'm going to introduce you to a couple and a family that left their native Germany for this very reason. The Romeike family. They have been homeschooling their children in Germany because they wanted to teach their children about God. Now, this is not something that you're allowed to do in Germany in school. After 5 years of homeschooling, this family had the government show up on their door. One day, the German government knocked on their door. They removed their children from the home, placed them in a van, and escorted the kids to class. Well, the kids, as you can imagine, were in tears. A government van shows up and throws them in the back. Now, I would imagine that my kids would be in tears, being ripped from their home, thrown in the back of the van, a frightening experience. But the next day, the police showed up again. But this time something happened. Friends surrounded the lawn and the police decided to leave. The family was eventually fined $10,000 for homeschooling their children. $10,000 fine because they don't have a right to homeschool. Obviously, if they were to continue homeschooling there, they would have gone bankrupt, paying fines, or go to jail. They were told that they would go to jail and lose the kids. Here is their story. Tonight I want to introduce you to a family that eats together, laughs together, and cries together. I want to tell you the story of the Romeike family. In 2008, the parents moved their kids from Germany to seek asylum in America because they were being persecuted for homeschooling, which is an old Nazi law in Germany. Homeschooling is still illegal. It took 2 years, but in 2010, they were granted asylum by the U.S. government. We feel here that you should be able to teach your kids whatever you want. In Germany, the old Nazi laws say no. In a small town outside of Knoxville, Tennessee, they found a place to call home, and what a home it is.
The landscape is very nice, and the people are very nice and friendly, and I would say they are also nicer and friendlier to kids here.
There, the family with 6 kids were able to finally enjoy the freedom they had dreamed of. The freedom to live, learn, teach in their own home, and follow their Christian beliefs.
We enjoy the freedom of homeschooling here, so freedom of education. That's something we didn't have.
But their struggle is far from over. The life they have created in the town with the rolling hills in Tennessee is now being threatened. Because this administration wants you to know it is not a basic human right to be able to teach your children what you deem appropriate. Now, the U.S. Agency for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, has filed an appeal on their asylum. This has already gone through a U.S. court. They have asylum. And ICE, what is it the president says we have bigger things to do? ICE is now arguing that homeschoolers are not a fit category for granting asylum. In other words, there is no basic human right to educate your own children as you see fit. I want you to know that this is the most crucial and critical piece of the entire hour that you need to understand. The family is fighting for their right to stay here in America. They're fighting deportation. Romeike versus Holder is now before the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit and will be held in 5 days. This amazing family came to America to educate their children. They thought they were coming to the land of the free, but unfortunately, they may not recognize it as much as some of us will. They are being targeted for educating their own children in the land of the free, and they may not recognize how far we have drifted. This time, by the same administration that would not go after the Black Panthers, they have been dancing around the Saudi national that just blew off limbs of Americans in our streets, and people are currently petitioning the White House to grant a permanent legal status to this family. But they have no intention of it. Why? Jay Carney was asked about this just last week.
There's a petition at whitehouse.gov, an online petition, and it's gotten over 100,000 signatures saying they want the president to intervene so that this family doesn't have to go back to Germany. They think the public schools, they've been homeschooling their kids here in America, and they don't like the German public schools. It's reached over 100,000 signatures. What's the process for reacting to something like that, and are you aware of the specific case?
I'm not aware of it. I will certainly take the question. We do have a threshold beyond which we respond to We the People petitions, and if that threshold is crossed, I'm sure we will respond, but I don't have a specific comment on this case.
The petition now has over 117,000 signatures, more than the required 100,000 to be able to get that response from the White House. But Carney isn't aware of it. So why would the administration go out of their way to fight this? What difference does this make? Remember, they were releasing illegal immigrant criminals from prison because of sequester before sequester even hit. So why would this administration, why are they fighting tooth and nail to send this family who is here legally back to Germany? Why? We go back to MSNBC. As the progressive host said, they believe your children is not yours. They belong to the collective. Progressives are always teaching our kids that the state knows better than mom and dad. Well, what better way to hammer that point home than to stick it to this homeschooling family from Germany and set a precedence? Leftist hack sites like Salon are now arguing that I'm only defending this family because they're white. What are you for? I am defending them because I do believe that we have a God-given right to teach our children the way we feel God is telling us to teach our children. It's why our pilgrims came here. So, where do we go here? With these modern-day American pilgrims who came here to teach their children and raise their children and worship with their children as they see fit. The administration is fighting them because progressives want total control over your children from cradle to grave. This is a secondary and critical part of Common Core. While we focus on Common Core, while they cultivate information on our kids, they are also blocking the exits by throwing a little-known German family through deportation and throwing them under the bus. But it's not about them. It's about you in the end. Tonight, I'm going to introduce you to this family, and I believe by the end of the hour, you will deeply care about these people, and you may even find the need to stand up for your own rights, for your own children, as you stand up for this family. It is imperative that this family is not sent home. If they lose, you lose. The right as a parent, you know, that private notion of children will be destroyed. Mercury One has been spearheading a defense fund for the family. So far, we have raised $92,204.84, mercuryone.org. Go there now if you'd like to donate. 100% of the proceeds go to the family for their legal defense. We sent a team of producers to the Romeike home, and I will tell you that they came home as changed people. Stick around for the hour, and I believe you will leave the hour as a changed person as well.
Stay where you are, stay where you are, stay where you are.
I want to introduce you to an amazing family. Uwe Romeike and his wife, is it Hannah? Is that how you say it? Hannah? 16-year-old son Daniel, 15-year-old daughter Lydia, 13-year-old son Joshua, 11-year-old son Christian, 7-year-old daughter Damaris, and 2-year-old Sarah. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Okay.
Welcome to Texas.
Thank you.
It's a different world here, at least for a while. Can you tell me why you are here, in your own words? Why are you in America?
We homeschooled in Germany for about 2 years, and we wanted to keep our family together, and by that time we were fearing that they would take custody of our children, so we had to leave Germany and fled here to the United States.
It's an underground thing, homeschooling in Germany. Do people do it and they keep it quiet, and it's...
That's exactly what we tried, but they found out after a few days, actually.
I mean, they would find out because your children just wouldn't be going to school, right?
Right.
Okay. And so they came to take the children. Who remembers the day they came to take you guys to school? The van showed up. You guys remember it? You want to tell me about it? What was that like?
Yeah. In the morning we started we just got out of bed.
Hold on, I think we're having a technical... We have a technical problem? Are we hearing him? Go ahead.
But
okay, we're not hearing it. Can we get another mic? Does anybody else remember? Or we'll get another mic, and we'll come back to that story. Were you home?
Yeah, we were at home.
And how did you react when they came?
Very, very scared. I was asking before all the people, the homeschool people, we knew what rights do we have to protect our children when the police will show up. And they said that will never happen here in our area.
Right.
And when it happened, it was very scary because I didn't know how to keep them at home.
Right.
They would just come in and try to get them, walk upstairs and get them by force.
So, tell me the story now. I think your mic is working now. Try your mic.
They came to our door, rang our doorbell, and we were upstairs. And my dad didn't know what to do, so he went downstairs and talked to them over, I think it was intercom. We didn't have to go to the door to know who was there. And so after a while, my dad opened the door and they came in, and after a few minutes of struggle and loud shouting, they took us in the police van. And
did they actually go like up the stairs or whatever? I mean,
well, I tried to keep them from doing that, and actually I was able to bring the children down, and but since it was not fast enough, they started grabbing them and putting them into the van, and they were all crying when they were leaving then.
okay, so then the next day, your friends, you told all your homeschooling friends,
Right.
and they all came and they surrounded your house, right? Or
Yes.
yeah. And then how did you get here? Then how did you come here? When was the decision made we have to come to America?
Well, it was after we learned that the school law in Germany changed so that the authorities could take custody of the children without having a court hearing. It just could show up any morning and you never knew when they would be.
This is crazy.
And take away custody, right.
Okay. Now, why do you want to homeschool? I mean, you're religious people.
Right.
And evangelical is not necessarily a very popular thing in Europe, right? There's not a lot of evangelicals. I mean, it's a growing number, but it's not like it is here in America.
Right.
And so are you deemed crazy?
Probably in the public, but not in our eyes.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. And so you don't really, do you have a lot of sympathy in Germany? You know, people who are religious and want to teach their kids, or not? Obviously not.
Well, the problem is that the media is not presenting these families in a neutral way. So they are always siding with the government and telling that Christians are extremists and fundamentalists. So we are just one of those fundamentalists in their eyes.
Right. Okay, so you decided to come here. Relax, it's okay. I know. I see I see the look of a mother.
Ooh,
oh
yeah,
my goodness!
Exactly
look at that. Yeah, it's pretty neat, isn't it? Looks tasty. It sounded like she said. When you decided to come here, had to be a really huge deal. How did that happen?
Well, of course, it took us about 2 years from the beginning of homeschooling to decide to completely leave the country and sell things at home so that we could finance the trip and the move and everything. But I think it was worthwhile because we knew here, at least that's what we were hoping for, we have the freedom to educate our children at home. And that's what, when we came here, we found, we found the Americans be very helpful and friendly and understanding and supportive until that appeal occurred.
And when did you hear about the appeal? Because you did it all the right way. You have all the paperwork. You did everything right. You didn't come over here with your hand out. You have a job?
Right. I'm a piano teacher.
Okay. And so you did it all the right way, and it's extraordinarily rare that anybody would ever come on asylum and say no, we're going to overturn that. What was that like? Did we knock on your door here? What happened? How'd you find out that they were?
Well, we received a letter by the Board of Immigration Appeals, and it was just a short letter explaining that the appeal was upheld by that court and that we had to leave the country within so and so many days.
What happens if you go back to Germany?
It will happen the same. I think, you got so much pressure that you have to bend down, or you do what they want, or you have to leave. You are forced to bring your children into public school or private school, or you have to leave the country again.
How do you guys feel about that?
Well, it's scary. I mean, we just...
But for the kids, how do you feel? How do you feel about going back home or to Germany, or is this home now, or what is happening to you in your head?
This is home for us now, but if we had to go back to Germany, I would have to start in 5th grade again, since I did the English curriculum since we left, and that would be a problem for me. Start all over again.
I can't get my arms around. I can't get my arms around a government telling us what we can and can't do with our children. But we are now entering that phase now, and I would love to get your opinion on the direction that America is going, and help wake Americans up. They came to your house and they came back and said, "This is the most amazing family we have seen." But let me bring in Mike Donnelly. He's the Attorney and Director of International Affairs at HSLDA. He is an adjunct professor of constitutional law at Patrick Henry College. And HSLDA, what is it?
Homeschool Legal Defense Association.
You are the people that stand guard over anybody who wants to homeschool. have you, A, seen anything like this happen in our country before, where we have the administration making the case you don't have a basic human right to raise and teach your kids?
Well, the fight for homeschooling has been going on for a long time.
Right.
And this is the first time we've heard from the federal government that kind of argument.
Okay. Highly unusual. Flips the Constitution, flips freedom upside down.
Well, of course, you know, in our country, the states are the ones who have control over education. And the federal government, although it's trying to get more involved in education for the reasons that you've talked about at length on this show for a number of years, I think, you know, the states are the ones who have control over. But this is an interesting case because it's an asylum case. And the INA, Immigration and Naturalization Act, is a federal law that applies to people who come here from other countries seeking protection from persecution. And on account of religion, political opinion, their nationality, particular social group. And
that, I mean, if it's not even, that's really interesting. Because just on the surface, I don't do what you do, but just on the surface, if they're saying it's not a basic human right, but that's not what they're arguing. They're arguing that they need protection because they are trying to worship God and also teach their children the way God is commanding them. So it is a religious, right?
It absolutely is, but the problem is the government is arguing that because their religious beliefs are not shared by a particular organization. They're just individual religious beliefs that perhaps they're somehow not worthy of that kind of protection.
Isn't that the point?
Yeah.
It's this collective salvation thing, isn't it? If they're not part of a collective, then they really don't matter.
It goes in that direction. I think the government really confuses equal persecution with equal protection. They're saying that because everyone is denied this particular right, that's okay. If everyone's being denied the right and no one's being targeted, which in fact is not true, the government's actually wrong, because the Supreme Court of Germany has actually said that it's okay to target people who are religiously or philosophically motivated in order to suppress parallel societies. So there actually is targeting going on in Germany, but our government ignores that in their arguments. And they say because everyone is being equally persecuted, that's okay. And that's very troubling.
And I don't want you guys feel free to answer or not answer, because I don't want to do anything that hurts your case, but are you telling me in Germany there isn't a parallel society with the Muslims? Are you really? Because I watch Europe all the time. There's a massive parallel society, and you guys can't have homeschooling? That's a little nuts.
Well, that's really one of the things that drives this, Glenn, and no one in Germany is really willing to talk about it, but they're very concerned with this growing parallel Muslim society. But it's okay to pick on Christians in Germany.
Okay, so how good are the prospects here? What are the odds that these guys are going to be staying with us?
We think we have a very strong case in the Sixth Circuit on a number of different grounds. There are technical, legal arguments. We've got some very substantive arguments based on the fact that these are basic human rights. I mean, the immigration judge, he got it right. He said these are basic human rights that no country, even a good country like Germany, has the right to repress or suppress.
Okay,
so he got it right.
All right, so tell me about the Sixth Circuit Court.
So in the Sixth Circuit Court, we appealed because we lost at the BIA, Board of Immigration Appeals, agreed with the government, ICE. ICE appealed the grant of asylum and said homeschooling is not a fundamental right to be protected and homeschoolers are not a cognizable group. We appealed that to the Sixth Circuit. So we've made a number of arguments. We think that the board actually abused its discretion. It did not apply the correct standard. But even more than that, Glenn, the real concern for us is that this is America. These are basic human rights. We should be standing on that side. Why is our government even appealing this case? And why are they defending it?
Who's on? Tell me about this. Tell me about the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. Their record. Where do they? Are they pretty good? Are they pretty bad?
I'm not a court watcher. I could say that the Ninth Circuit, people say, is kind of over here, and I'm not sure which circuits I would say are over here.
Right, yeah.
You know, that's anybody's guess. The Sixth Circuit hasn't distinguished itself from being particularly over here on the left. So we expect we're going to get a fair panel, and who are going to listen to our arguments. I know that one of the judges, I think it's the chief judge of the panel, Judge Gilmore, is a Clinton appointee, but we've been told that he's a very fair-minded judge. So we think we're going to get a good shake. We've got some good arguments, we feel.
Explain to the American people why this matters.
This matters, Glenn, because America needs to be on the side of right. We need to be defending people against governments that want to control what children learn and who, more importantly, want to cut parents out of that. And when you look at what is happening even in our country, you know, you can say Common Core is a step in the direction of the slippery slope towards national control. Have we ever seen governments around the world take control over education? What are the consequences when that happens? At the end of the day, whose job is it to raise children? Uwe and Hannah or the government? And that's what it comes down to.
Last night on the show, I wish I had it here, I brought it back home, but I have Neville Chamberlain's, the original letter from Neville Chamberlain to Adolf Hitler's Hitler Youth. And he said, I've just visited with your Führer, and I know you want peace. And what you're doing with the children in Germany is wonderful, and you will be the ambassadors and build a new Europe. And he was awfully darn right on a few things. They were planning on being the new ambassadors for the world, but it strikes me as, at best, naive of politicians to think that any government that wants to take our children and teach them, and of course all of that was about outdoors and be healthy and strong, and you see exactly what happens when it goes wrong. Not to say that this government or a German government would go wildly wrong, but governments in the end always do. It's just a matter of how long it takes them to get there. Okay, back in just a minute.
The network you are building.
We just gonna listen to Dad play for a minute. We used to, as a country, ask, what can you bring to our country? How can you make us stronger? We used to look for talent and knowledge and skill, and I'm struck by this family, how we have obviously a little talent and some skill, people who don't want a handout, and we're kicking them out of the country, and people who are pilgrims. This is what the pilgrims did. So, tell me about how God is driving you to this. Can you?
Yeah. To homeschooling, you mean?
Yeah, or to uproot your whole family for this.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, because we think parents are responsible before God to raise their children in the ways of the Lord and of the Bible. And that was exactly the question I asked the principal. Whose children are ours? Are they the governments or the schools or our children? And we feel we are responsible for their upbringing.
What did the principal say?
He didn't have an answer. Just quite.
Well, you know the answer, and so do we. At least I think.
Well, this is the frightening thing, that there are a lot of voices like that in this country. Elite academic intellectuals who say that the state has to control the education of children in order for democracy to survive. Is that perverse?
Yeah.
And our administration is coming alongside that argument, which is the argument made by the German Supreme Court in two cases. These are the Supreme Courts of the country. Okay, we're not talking about some district court here. We're talking about the Supreme Court of Germany saying that it is the state's job, superior to the rights of parents, to determine the values that children learn in schools. That's how we socialize children in Germany.
Yeah, same argument here on homeschooling. How are they going to get it? They're going to be socially mixed up? No, they're not. Jeez, for the love of Pete, no, they're not.
Well, that socialization question, I think, is it represents a presupposition. Whose job is it to socialize children?
Right.
It's parents' responsibility to do that.
Okay, back in just a second. Okay, if you want to help this family, it is going to take hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we've already raised about $100,000. You can go to mercury1.org, and but please at least pass this message on, because this is crucial.